Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Focus Friday. And this episode is called The Path is the Way. And remember, Focus Friday is where we help start conversations in the coaching and educational spaces and trying to open up dialogues. So this week's topic, The Path is the Way, I want to talk about something that happens a lot especially in the coaching world, where we develop these processes or things that we want, whether it's cues or focus points or how we want certain things run in practice. And where we falter a little bit is we don't show the path that we took to get there. Maybe you've been established and your program does certain things that it's just known. This is how our program operates. And new players or new staff come in and they just assume into those roles and start to take those actions and organically grow into what your process or, whatever you want to call it is. But the problem is we don't take the time to actually show how we got there. And a way we can look at this is if you bring a new staff member on, and let's say instead of going to a practice, the very first thing that this staff member does is come to one of your first games and they're watching you coach. Or maybe it's a student teacher and they're coming to watch you teach a lesson without seeing any of the planning, or as a coach without seeing any of the practices. And they watch you when it's, when the money's on the line, when it's the competition part. And you have certain cues or how you interact with players, side conversations, or things that you do. They get a sense of what your program's like or what you want, but the problem is they don't see how you got there. They don't understand how having these side conversations with players very quickly, or these short cues that create the results that you want, were actually developed over time. And I think too many times that's what we do, especially with incoming players. We expect them to understand how we're setting up drills, how we're running drills, what we expect from our cues, but we never took the time to show them the path or the process of how we got there, how we built that trust, how we built those expectations. We just assume that because they're joining the team and coming in that they'll be assimilated into it and it's just organically going to happen. And that can be a struggle. Well, it typically does happen. I think the process itself could happen a lot quicker if we take the time to show them how we got there. So how do we do that year after year? If you're a coach that coaches the same team year after year, a college coach or a high school coach where the kids come in as freshmen and leave as seniors, it could be a little, daunting to figure out how to incorporate that without taking a ton of time away from the returning players that already know it. But I think there's value in those players also going over the expectations in the beginning. So I have two ways that we do this. One, I think, is we start off at the beginning of the year going over what are the standards and the basics. What are we going to do when we first come into practice? What are we going to do when we start practice, start a drill, start a game, end practice, or end a drill, end a game? And then, how do we incorporate our feedback loops and all that little stuff? So maybe the very first day you get your team together and it's a mix of new players, freshmen, sophomore transfers, whatever you may have, or new students in your classroom. And you have everyone combined. And the first way is you just go overall. Hey, this is how we're going to handle timeouts. This is what I expect us to do every time practice starts. Let's come in, you guys do your breathing and meditation work. Then you do your dynamic stretching, and then you do your positional work, and then we meet at the whiteboard and we go over what the game plan is. Or maybe the first thing you have to do is, hey, come in right away, check the whiteboard, and that shows our list of what we're doing today and the order, and start it, and then we'll huddle up at some point. I think another way that you can do it, I think, is the better way, but again, that trust has to be built, so it might be harder for a coach that's taking over a program, or first year coaches, have the upperclassmen teach that. So the very first day or first couple days of practice, the coach, you're kind of just standing back for that first part. And the upperclassmen, the seniors, the juniors, the captains are going through and saying, okay, this is how we start every practice. We come out of the locker room, we go to the whiteboard, see what we're doing for today, write our goals down on the whiteboard, which is, what one of the things that we have our players do is write the goals down every day so everyone can see it and kind of hold them accountable. And then we go into our breathing work and our meditation work, and then our, dynamic warm up, and then some positional movements and things like that. But you have your upperclassmen run it. So that's doing a couple of things. One, it's assimilating the new players into your culture, into your program. These are how things run in our gym. The second thing is it's a refresher for all the returning players. Like, oh yeah, this is how we do it, and this is what's expected of me. And third is it's another chance to develop leadership for those upperclassmen. Even if it's not just the captains, you have everyone doing it. It's a way for them to demonstrate and show and be leaders. And that also builds trust then between your upperclassmen and your newcomers, because they're getting that direction the very first day from someone that isn't the coach. And they start to build that trust. So I think that's a great way to start to look at it. But really what this all does for us is it shows the path. It shows why what we do is successful or what we want it to do. It's not just going out there and saying, okay, we are breathing because that's what we always do. It kind of gives you a sense of what we're doing in the program. When we get into technical skills, maybe we want to demonstrate a certain skill, whether it's, free throw shooting in basketball, or maybe it's dribbling or passing in soccer, or, it's hitting or attacking in volleyball. A lot of times we model what we want to have done. This is the proper footwork, the proper approach, the proper tempo, all the little things. But again, we didn't set it up by showing them how we got to that point. Why does that work? Why do we do this technique? Why do we train it this way? You always hear in the negative sense, I don't want to see how the sausage is made. Everyone likes sausage and still they see the process and how it's made. But I think this is a case where we want to show how it's made. We want to show them how we're making the sausage, because it buys into, okay, I'm not just doing this because I'm being told to do it. There's actually reasoning and philosophy behind it. From the higher ranks, whether it's the varsity in high school, even up to college ranks, I think one of the things that we run into is we just automatically assume that through the training that these kids have played 8, 9, 10 years of club, travel, junior high, just young athletes, that somewhere along the line someone explained that to them. But I think what we're finding is no one's actually explaining it to them. Starting at, 8U, 9U, 10U, they're just doing things because they're being told, I need you to do this skill this way. But they're never explained why it's done this way. And when we don't do that, it doesn't give them a chance, to challenge it, which keeps us fresh. Well, why do we always do it this way? It gives them a chance to kind of explore and maybe find new and better ways of doing things. But we're not really giving that chance because we're just telling them, this is how you need to do it, and there's no showing of that path. And that's why I call this episode, The Path is the Way. Because as for much as we like to think of, hey, do this technique, do it this way, or learn this way and do it this way, it works and creates success. When we actually go back and show them how we got to that point and let them grow in that path and the process, it creates better athletes, better learners, better students for life, not just for that sport. And I think one of the current most overused phrases that we have is trust the process, right? How many times have we heard trust the process lately? That's great, but are we actually trusting the process? Or are we just trusting what we're being told? It's not really trusting the process if we're just saying, hey, I need you to go out and do this, do this, do this, and do this. And don't question it because it's going to be successful. If we're actually trusting the process and what we want to do with the process, it is us going through and saying, this is how we're doing it, this is why. This is what led us to this point. Now, the good thing about the path is of the way is that doesn't mean that we don't tell them, hey, look, we tried this and it doesn't work. This is why we do it this way. You see the difference there? And I think that's a really subtle difference. There's a difference between saying, okay, this is the way I want you to do it, go do it, versus, hey, this is how we want you to try it. We tried it this way and it didn't work, and here's why. So we're now telling them, because even if we tell them to go out and do a skill, probably in the back of their mind, they're still thinking, but what if I did it this way? and they're thinking about something that maybe you've already done and you can give them an experience, but we're skipping that step just to get that quick satisfaction, quick learning moment to get them out on the court, out on the field, out on the pitch, so that they can, be more successful right away. And I understand that. But I think we're losing a lot of growth opportunity when we don't let them try. And we don't explain to them the process. Here's why we warm up this way. Here's why we line up in this formation. Here's why I'm asking you to play offense or defense this way. Instead of just saying, go out and do it because this is what is successful. I hope that all makes sense. I would love to hear your comments. Put them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and let's get this word out and get more of a dialogue going, especially in the comments. And you can always reach out to me directly, dan@danmickle.com or @RealDanMickle across all social media. And thanks again to Soul Performance Academy as our sponsor. You can visit them at soulperformanceacademy.com. They help making athletes and performers from good to great. Some great cognitive and mental performance services that we offer at Soul. And again, like, share, post this everywhere. Let's get the word out. Reach out. Much love, peace, don't suck, and see you for next week's Friday Focus.